Hey guys, it's Kate. Thank you for tuning in. I decided to build a house that was inspired by Victorian architecture, and I say inspired because obviously this isn't 100% authentic. I decided to use a lot of details and kind of incorporated the typical style, the type of columns I used in the fence, and just the general shape of the house. But I decided to use very bright colors so the house looks very friendly and happy and inviting from the outside. And I also kind of continued this theme on the inside. As you're going to see, I used a lot of very friendly and pastel colors. I tried to make it look a little bit rustic and old-fashioned, but also friendly, so there are some modern elements. So you could say that this is a twist on a classic Victorian house, because it's not really classic on the outside or on the inside, but it was inspired by the idea of Victorian architecture, so it kind of has its own style, I guess you could say. I said this before in another video, I am just fascinated by the Victorian era and by Victorian architecture. I just think that it's a very fascinating time, and it's also a time period that is vastly romanticized by a lot of people, and for some people it's really some type of proper hobby to kind of learn more about that era, and I think that it's just very interesting personally. The Victorian era started in 1837 and it ended in 1901. So the Victorian era is simply the period of Queen Victoria's reign. And Queen Victoria was madly in love with her husband, and when her husband died, she kind of never stopped mourning. So she was extremely sad, and she even had a cast of her late husband's hand that she always had in bed with her, and they even put it in her coffin when she died herself. It was kind of very romantic. She loved him so much, and she could never really cope. She could never really overcome all the sadness, which is of course very sad, but it's also very romantic in a way. But during that time, mourning and kind of publicly mourning someone and missing someone was kind of a thing. Nowadays, it's not really a thing that much. We don't talk about death that openly, but during that time, it kind of was in fashion because of this. Queen Victoria started to wear black when her husband died, and she never stopped wearing black after that. So in a weird way, this kind of became a trend, and people really started to do this more publicly. So you now might ask yourself, how does all of this translate to this build and to Victorian architecture itself? Well, it kind of made us view Victorian architecture in a certain way, because nowadays when we think of a house in a horror movie, of any type of spooky house, it's usually a house that was built in Victorian architecture. The whole time period was very dark and it was very mystical in a way. Spiritualism was also a thing, so we now kind of connect the idea of this type of architecture with anything dark and very spooky. It was also a difficult time after the Civil War, and ironically enough, the Victorian mansions that we now love so much and that are protected and cherished so much because they are just work of art, really. These type of houses were considered the McMansions of back then. And that's kind of funny because nowadays McMansions are just hideous. I mean, no shade. I know that some people love that style, but when you view it from kind of a architectural angle, McMansions aren't really work of art, I guess you could say. But back then, Victorian houses were considered this way, especially because there were people who were extremely rich after the Civil War, especially in the North, and these people kind of built these houses. But on the other hand, there were people who were extremely poor and had a very difficult time. So having a house like this was kind of like showing off what you have, while other people don't have that much and all that stuff. So it's kind of interesting how all that developed, why nowadays these houses are just amazing. I am in a Facebook group for old houses, and some people there own these type of houses, and they just put so much work in this, and they have been working on the houses for like decades, and it's just amazing that someone is preserving these type of houses and this type of architecture. It's just amazing to see. But I was going for a completely different direction. I didn't want to capture this very typical dark and spooky style. I was going for a very bright and happy kind of style. When we talk about Victorian architecture, though, the thing is that Victorian architecture actually is anything that was built in that era, anything. But we have a specific style in mind, and there are different types. Gothic Revival, for example, Queen Anne, folk Victorian style, so many different houses, and it's just so interesting. So for this house, I was going for something that's very bright and happy and inviting. But let's talk about what I have actually built here. So the main part of the house kind of sits on a little hill. Once again, I decided to use the terrain tools for this house. And where the main part sits on the terrain, there is a little part at the bottom. Who doesn't? And these almost look like cute little gazebos. They are part of the little towers that I included in the front. I felt like these are very important to make the house look a little bit Victorian, which, as I said, was the look that I was going for. And you guys know that I love to include lots of details, and Victorian architecture definitely asked for this type of details, but I was doing it differently this time. I used lots of spandrels, which I rarely do actually. I kind of noticed that, but these are very important for this type of look. I included fences on top of the roofs of the towers and placed some columns all around. This was just a way to add more details, and when you look at real-life Victorian houses, the amount of detail is just crazy. I know that I like to go overboard with details in my builds, and a lot of my builds are actually basically fantasy builds and have nothing to do with real life, but I swear, if you haven't checked them out yet, real life Victorian houses, it's crazy and it looks just stunning. Of course, it's very difficult to kind of imitate this type of style in this game really, because there's no way of adding these kind of intricate details that you see in real life Victorian builds, but I was kind of trying to do my best. I also included shelves, which is something that I do often. But for this build, I used the base game shelf because they just have these cute little details and ornaments in the front of them. Usually when I just use shelves to create some kind of custom frieze, I really love to use the shelves that are part of Get Together, but for this type of build I felt like the base game shelf was just the perfect and obvious choice. And this house is just crazy big, as you will see, and it's fully furnished, and I did something that I'm a little bit excited about, and I'm just kind of curious what you guys would think about this. But this house has 3 stories, and at the bottom there is just the living area. Living room, kitchen, and all that jazz. And then on the floor above there are the bedrooms. And first of all, this is not what I meant, but all bedrooms in this house are ensuites, even the kids' room. So every bedroom in this house has its own little bathroom, and there are 2 additional bathrooms. So there are enough bathrooms for anyone in this house. But then there's another floor above, and first I felt like adding more bedrooms, which would probably be the obvious choice, but I wanted to try something different. And also I kind of had a roofing situation going on the top floor, because the roof is bugging inside the room, but not because the room is not enclosed or something, it is. But when you are dragging a roof up too high, this kind of sometimes happened. So I kind of sectioned this area off, and the rest of the floor I used to create a attic space. I have never built an attic before, and I think that it's kind of a cool thing, and I made it look very untidy, very random. I wanted to make it look like a proper attic, because you don't really make sure that a attic space like this looks beautiful and well cleaned and with a nice interior design and all that. I really wanted to make it look very random almost, with some boxes here and there and just some random stuff really, but I still wanted to make this some type of usable space. I just did not want to build some type of random attic and that's it. I wanted it to make sense, so I added some gym equipment, and I also added a washing machine and all that stuff, as you will see, and I think that it turned out really cool. I also included some spandrel just to section off some section to make it look a little bit more like a proper attic, but I'm really curious what you guys are going to think. As you can see here, I decided to use tons of pink flowers. I have rarely used pink flowers in my builds. I enjoy to use the pastel blue ones, the white ones, and the yellow ones, and I have rarely used the pink ones for some reason, but pink is such a very friendly, positive, and happy color, and as soon as I decided to go for this very inviting, happy aesthetic for the house, I thought that pink would be a very good choice. I also placed pink flowers at the bottom in front of the fence, and I used some of the flowers that are part of the Romantic Garden stuff pack. These are just so cute. I love these flowers. And at first I couldn't really decide what type of color I would want to use for the walls. At first I even thought about using something that is bright red, for example, but then as soon as I had set my heart on the very happy, friendly aesthetic, I decided to simply use some very warm dark brown. Thing is that the white is so bright that it's kind of really overpowering any other color. It's very hard to see any kind of color behind it, and when you look at the house from the front and from the back, it's very hard to tell at first sight what color it even is. So I thought that some type of neutral kind of wood color would be the best choice for this probably. And I decided to go for a gray roof, and the roof is actually part of Get Famous, the roof color, and so are some of the windows that I used. I combined Get Famous windows with some base game windows. I really love these windows that are part of Get Famous. They're just perfect for any type of mansion or castle build or something, but they look so extreme in my opinion with all these little details that it's kind of too much most of the time, not always when you only use these. So I just threw in some base game windows in the mix, and I think it turned out nice. And here I'm working on the back. So I built this on a 50 by 50 lot, and it kind of looks bigger than it is. This kind of always happened every time I'm building something, even when it's something legitimately small. People are like, oh my god, this looks so huge. And I don't know, I would easily believe that this is a 64 by 64, but it's not. And I built a tiny house. This was my last video, you can check it out if you want, and it just looked so big from the outside, but it really wasn't, because there wasn't even enough space for a dining table, for example. But I don't know, I think it's all the details maybe. But yeah, this house looks huge, but it's not. It's big, but it's not a 64 by 64, and there was even some space left in the back for a little cute garden. There are many areas where Sims can sit on the outside, just hang out, have a barbecue. They even included a really creatively shaped pool in the back, so this house really has everything you need, including ensuites, as I said. And here I'm starting to work on the kitchen. I used the counters that are part of the vampire pack. I just felt like these are just perfect for a Victorian house, obviously. I'm going to change up the floor and the wall colors in a couple of seconds though, because I was going for a very friendly pastel look, and here I used these, I think it's almost a duck egg blue probably. So I was going for some type of blue pastel, dark egg blue color in combination with some white and black. And I really changed up a lot. I really put a lot of love into the interior. So these curtains, for example, they don't really look that good. And I'm also going to change that up in a couple of seconds. And back then I had a tendency to build huge kitchens with a couple of miles of kitchen counters, and this didn't really look that good, and I really kind of tried to step away from these huge kitchens. So I did not include counters that are unrealistically long, I would say. So this is just the kitchen, and this on the left side is just the sink and dishwasher area. So I really kept it open and left a lot of space. And then I had this little area here, and at first I wasn't sure what to place there. And then I thought that it's just a perfect area to have a little bar, just so you can entertain some guests, especially because it's right next to the dining table, which is just perfect when you have some Sims over. There's a piano in between, so just imagine a Sim playing some music while you have some type of dinner party or something. This was kind of just like the train of thought that I had while building this, and here I'm trying to add some details. There is not a lot of warmth in this room in particular, but I felt like that the floor is still very warm, so it's only the floor that adds some warmth to this, and I really enjoy how it turned out. And for the living room, I used this beautiful petrol blue color. The wall color, and the sofa, and the armchairs are part of Get Famous, and I just love this color so much. So I was going for a combination of this color and a lot of gold. So again, the wall color is quite cool, but obviously a little bit more friendly than the kitchen in terms of color. And then I just added a lot of stuff, as you can see. I wanted to have a little TV corner. I wanted to include a desk so your Sims can chill at the computer. There's also going to be a proper office, as you will see in a few minutes, but I felt like adding something there. It's a big house. It offers enough space for a huge Sim family, so of course you also want to have enough computers. We all know that Sims are obsessed with computers, but who are we to judge? Obviously, we enjoy video games, so we can't really judge Sims for enjoying their computers so much. We all do. We all enjoy our computers or consoles, so it's fine. And here I added a little reading area, a little reading corner, just so I didn't want to cram in too much stuff into the room, but of course I didn't want the room to look too empty or something. And here I used some walls to kind of section off this area, so this is just a little hallway, and I added a little bit of decoration and another bookshelf. It's a huge house after all, so I kind of try to make the space very big but manageable with a lot of stuff for your Sims to use. And now I would like to introduce something completely new to my videos. I'm not sure if I'm going to do this in every single one of my videos, but it's definitely something that you guys will see more often. I picked a comment of the day. This comment can be anything, something motivating, something helpful, just something interesting to talk about. And I chose this comment today by Andrea. Did you know Sims can walk through windows? I put an arch in a big modern base game window and they just waltz right through. I was just a little mind blown, so I wanted to share that just in case no one knew or hadn't tried it. I love your builds, they look so full of life. Thank you so much for your very kind comment, Andrea. And this is just such a cool bit of advice that I wanted to share with you guys. I had already pinned the comment in that video, but I kind of thought that this would be a cool comment for the first comment of the day. This is very helpful, so you just have to use the move object sheet and you can place a door or a doorway in a window, and you can just create something that is very unique. I generally love to include very unique ideas in my builds. For example, I also did this in this build. I don't know if you guys caught this, but I used the fireplace that is part of the free holiday celebration pack, and this fireplace was added to the pack a couple of months ago for Christmas. And I used it to create some type of unique entrance area. I love to use shelves to create some custom freezers. I love to use the infamous base game debug brick. This is just what I'm calling it. I have no idea what it is, but I use it as some type of brick and so many other things. And I just thought that Andrea's comment was really helpful, just something that I've never seen before. And please leave a comment down below what you think about the comment of the day. I just love you guys so much. I just enjoy every single comment, and just generally I just love this community. You guys are the best, and I just want to kind of include you guys more into my videos, and I thought that it would be a neat idea. And here I am finally working on the attic. As I said before, it's really random. I did not want this to look beautiful. I wanted this to look like a proper attic with some boxes in the corners, just some stuff that you put there because you don't want to have it in your living space, so you just put it up there so you don't have to see it ever again, but for some reason you don't want to throw it away. This was the look that I was going for. I still wanted to include some stuff that you Sims could use, so I included some gym equipment. I also included the woodworking table and the flower arranging table. The flower arranging table was added with seasons, so there is a lot of stuff up there that your Sims can use. Also the perfect size closet where Sims can try on some outfits, and a bookshelf, and the washing machine, as I said, and the dryer, just some different things. And I think that this is a good space where you can basically add anything that you kind of want to add, but there is no real space, so it's not looking good. For example, it's not always easy to find a perfect spot for the woodworking table, for example, or for some gym equipment. And so you can also just add some other stuff yourself if you would like to. And of course, this house is also available in the gallery. It's fully furnished, and as always, I'm going to include all the information that you need down below in the description box. And here you just saw how I started to work on the bedrooms. There are 4 bedrooms, 3 kids rooms and 1 master bedroom, and as I said earlier, all of the bedrooms are ensuites. So there are 4 bedrooms and 4 bathrooms plus 2 additional bathrooms that aren't connected to any bedroom. One of the 2 bathrooms is at the top and 1 at the bottom, so this makes a total of 6 bathrooms and 4 bedrooms. I felt like this is a proper mansion, so it kind of makes sense to include enough bedrooms and enough bathrooms. And this is the blue kids room. I really love this. I think that this is my favorite because it's just so bright and friendly. I placed the bed right in front of the big window, which is kind of the eye catcher of this room in my opinion, and I all kept it in blue. I just added some little brown here and there to have a little contrast between the very cool blue, so there is some warmth going on. And here I'm starting to work on the party / barbecue room, and I really love this room. It's at the bottom and it can be accessed from the back from the garden, so it's kind of a place where your Sims can have some indoor party or barbecue. There's also a barbecue grill on the outside in the front, so it's kind of a expansion of the garden in case the weather is bad or something, and I think it just looks so cool. And here you can see how your Sims can sit in the front and have a barbecue, and I really enjoy this. And this is almost it, guys. I included some screenshots, and as I said, you can find all the information in the description box in case you want to download this lot. And I would like to say thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and if so, please like and subscribe, and I hope I see you in the next video. Bye bye!